What I want as mayor of this incredible and great city is that working people can walk in and see prices that they can afford.
He was a part-time rapper. His mother is a film director. He had a TikTok campaign, but he's never had a serious job.
So it's almost that time. Back on the board here, Quinnipiac came out with new numbers in the mayor's race here in New York City. They did this 2 weeks ago, so we're comparing about roughly 14 days apart. Mamdani dropped 3 points. Cuomo stayed the same. Sliwa lost a point in the Quinnipiac poll that came out yesterday. Among Democrats now, about 60% are with Mamdani, okay? About a third are with Cuomo. Among Republicans, almost an even split here now between Cuomo and Sliwa. Remember, Sliwa was getting all the conservative vote, all the Republicans, of which there are not that many here in New York, 4 years ago when he ran. Among independents now, they go between Mamdani about a third and Cuomo a third, and Sliwa is a distant 18% among indies. Karl Rove, come and join our conversation here, sir. Good morning to you. I want to read the headline that you wrote today in the Wall Street Journal. It's about Mamdani. You said, "I want your vote, you bigot." In an odd last-minute appeal, Mamdani accuses New Yorkers of Islamophobia. You said his speech was angry and bitter and divisive and dumb. How do you really
it was
feel?
dumb. Well, yeah, I was shocked. Here's the moment that he ought to be trying to unite the city, and instead he says, I made a mistake to think that I could be a candidate who called upon the city to unite. He talked about, Muslim teachers and police who make daily sacrifices. Their leaders spit on them, he says. Islamophobia is, quote, one of the few areas of agreement among my opponents in the city. I mean, it's like this guy went out of his way to say that it was sort of like Hillary Clinton and, the deplorables. The city is full of bigots. And he, as a Muslim, feels this intensely. Well, if that were true, he would not have won the Democratic nomination. If the 5 boroughs are hotbeds of bigotry, sure, they're bigots in any city, but the idea that New York is, beset by Islamophobia, I thought was a very poor note to end on.
Question then, because you said he could be using this moment to unite. To me, people who feel confident when they're running, that they think they're going to win, that's when they can pivot and start uniting people. President Trump did that in this last election. But what he's doing is lashing out. Does that give you any indication? Does he think that his campaign might be taking on a little water? Maybe he's not going to just win this thing? Or is that his character and what he really thinks about the city?
I think it's mostly the latter, but it could be a little bit of the former. Think about this. Of the 19 polls held in New York City since Labor Day, Mamdani is bigger than 50%. He's leading with 50% or more in 2. Now think about this. New York City, 62% of the registered voters are Democrats, and he's the Democratic nominee. 22% are registered independents, unaffiliated. That leaves 16% of the city's voters who are Republicans, conservatives, or members of some left-wing party that tends to be on the ballot in the city. He's the nominee of the Democratic Party. Why is he not even getting the base Democratic vote of 62%? If you look at it, in the most recent polls, there seems to be a tendency where, while he's in the mid-40s, maybe the high 40s, nonetheless, he's not over 50, and there's a growing number of people who are undecided. What does that mean? That means either they have decided not to be for him and are not comfortable telling a pollster that, or they have decided they don't like anybody. The former helps him. The latter helps him because it's people dropping out of the electorate. The former hurts him because those are people who are probably moving away from him. We'll know on election night, but it says something about him that he cannot get anywhere close to the percentage of the voters in the city of New York who are Democrats, and he's the Democratic nominee.
I'm expecting big turnout here in New York. Big turnout. I mean, the attention has gotten substantial.
Then it could be close.
Across the Hudson in New Jersey, here we go. Mikey Sherrill, the Democrat, at 49%. Jack Ciattarelli, the Republican, 48%. Emerson Poll. This thing, Karl, will go deep into the night. How do you see it?
I agree. Look at it. The last poll that she had a good lead was the Concord poll on the 18th of October and the 26th from GQR. Both of those are Democrats. Democrat groups sponsored them. But since then, we've had 3, 1, and 2. This could conceivably be very, very close and a long night.
Okay.
And is it true that Republicans usually underpoll in New Jersey?
I think that's true, and she's a terrible candidate, and he's an authentic guy. He comes across as the everyman, and she is really, really weak.
Thanks, Karl.
Flat.
Thank you so much. Well,
hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.